In 2023, I went on a school trip to Europe, where for 2 weeks my life was nothing but change. Because, to give you some context, in this period of my life, I was on self improvement, but I'd made next to no actual progress. I wasn't consistent, didn't make any gains in the gym, was on the bad habits like porn and video games. So, I wasn't really confident, assured of myself. The prospect of going to a new country on this trip was exciting, but I was also like terrified of everybody on the trip to have to show myself, to talk to them, put myself out there. Being uncomfortable was not a common occurrence for me within this point of my life. But ever since we went to the first city on our itinerary, which was Paris, I quickly started to change how I was acting. And this wasn't really a conscious choice, it was just me being forced into a new situation. I had to start trying new things because it was a huge culture shock for one, right? Being in Europe, being in a new place. And it wasn't like Edmonton at all. People were walking everywhere, people are talking to each other. There's food and stores all along the streets, right? And you just quickly start to make friends with the people around you in your trip. You don't really have a choice, right? You're stuck with them for 2 weeks. You might as well enjoy the people you are with. And half of these people are girls. And at that period of time, I was terrified. So on top of trying new things, I had to speak to girls. I had to speak to other people as well. And I quickly started to change. Because what I would do before is I would avoid the situation. If I knew I had to speak to someone or do something uncomfortable, I would avoid it. I wouldn't put myself out there. As I said already, like that wasn't possible on this trip. As a result, I started changing. I felt so much more confident in the coming days. I started speaking to more people, being more authentic, being just who I was, right? And at that period of time, I wasn't very confident or developed my self improvement journey. Yeah, it didn't even seem to matter. Nobody seemed to care. Trying all these new things, it made that trip into the best time of my life. From going to France to Germany, then eventually coming back home, I felt extremely confident. I felt like a leader in a few senses, but it didn't last. By the time I came back home, I felt like a changed individual. I already had a date planned with one of the girls from the trip, which was the first time I'd ever done anything like that. Yet, coming back to the same environment I was in before, I fell back into my old mannerisms. I started jerking off, right? Started playing video games again. I I went to school. Instead of putting myself out as the confident, different, assured individual that I thought I was, I reverted to avoiding the situations where I'd see somebody coming down the hall and I'd think, oh, I don't want to talk to that person. And I'd walk into the separate hallway away from them. Within a week, 2 weeks, I was back to the person I was at the beginning of the trip. It was like I'd make no progress at all. Like if I was an elastic band that had moved all the way up here, but snapped back to the person I was. The reason was because I stopped changing. I was afraid of change. I was afraid of trying new things. And the trip was a temporary reprieve, but coming back to my normal life, it fell apart. I stopped being confident. I stopped talking to girls. I stopped putting myself out there. My life went back to what it was before, a trashy, unhappy sort of an existence, really. And me saying this, me talking about this in this video, the biggest thing that I learned was if you're afraid of change, right? If you don't actually try to change up what you're doing, you're always going to get the exact same result, right? Einstein said the definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing over and over again while expecting different results. But that was what I was trying to do, right? I was trying to expect different results while doing the exact same thing over and over again. I wanted to talk to girls, but I was avoiding the situation thinking that, oh, something will change. I'll become a better person. I'll put in the work. But I never actually faced what was ahead of me. When I had no choice but to embrace change within the Europe trip, my life changed for the better, right? When I was back in my old environment, when I stopped pursuing that change, pursuing that discomfort, my life fell apart as a result. Even now, right, in 2024, I've improved, changed up my looks, dressed a bit better. I still find myself avoiding discomfort, avoiding the change within my life to talk to a new person, put myself out there, change up my beliefs, try something new. Taking action for me is just the most difficult step out there. To not avoid what is in my way, but rather to pursue it. Because I've experienced, right? I've been on that trip, I've done those things, and my life improved as a result, but it's just finding some way to embrace that, which is what I'm still looking for today. Finding some way to embrace the change ahead of you. Because if you can do that, your life will improve so much, so much more quickly. If I had done what I did in those 2 weeks for my entire year, I would be a completely different person right now, right? And anybody can do this. I wasn't the only person who felt extremely confident on that trip. A lot of my other friends, they did as well. They improved. They changed up how they acted. Even coming back from the trip, they continued to act in that way. That trip was life-changing for a few people, especially me, to realize, okay, it's not how I currently act. Or actually, it's my beliefs that are holding me back. It's my inability to pursue change that's holding me back. And I've known that to be the case for over a year now. But actually confronting that harsh reality and confronting the truth of the matter has been the most difficult thing to kind of contend with within my life. Right? Because if you pursue change, if you continually try to become a person who tries new things, puts himself in new situations, faces his fears, if you did that for an entire year, imagine how much better you could get. I'm not just saying it to you, I'm asking myself this exact same question. If you went all in, if you faced every fear on the book, if you actively made that attempt and didn't shy away from anything, how would your life change? Really ask yourself that question, because I think you'd be surprised. I think you know deep down what the truth of that matter is. Because I'm making this video to share, to help anybody else who's watching this, but it's accountability for myself. Because these past few weeks, I've been doing much of the same thing, expecting different results. Staying cooped up at home, reading books, writing, learning new things, and telling myself, okay, if I do more and more of this, my life will change. But if you don't ever take action, if you don't ever confront those fears like I'm failing to do, it's not. Nothing's gonna happen, right? So if you take anything away from this video, nothing changes if nothing changes, man. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Peace.